Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2016 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show, as always, is presented by Honda and Honda HPD. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing product line, please visit hpd.honda.com. That's hpd.honda.com. As I have mentioned every week, for those of you who have aches and pains from your head to your toes, I highly recommend Dr. Rob Schroeder. He is a chiropractor who studied everything, and he takes care of most of his patients are athletes in the area. You can make an appointment, call his office at 317-388-8755. And if you haven't toured the museum, don't wait. The Roger Penske 50-year anniversary display is up. You want to see that? And you can now join memberships. Join the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. There's various perks for whatever you want to join at what level. If you have computer problems, do yourself a favor. Call Jack at Computer Overdrive at Lyndhurst and Crawfordsville Road. Their number is 328-0766. And if you're into drones or would like to get some information, see how to fly drones, Mark, former crew chief in IndyCar, has a drone shop. He's got everything. He can teach you how to do it. And the new law makes it much easier to do. How many watched the Mazda Road to Indy programs that were streamed on the internet? Oh, really? All 3 or 4 or 5 of you. Good competition. The thing that got a lot of people upset was, and it's not illegal, in the Indy Lights second race, Zach Veach had everybody covered, and Ed Jones, who was leading the points, was in 5th. And with Santi Urrutia running second, he would have won the championship. His teammate, Alex Sorellis, was behind him. He had nothing to gain, so he backed off. He was in front of him. He backed off, let Ed Jones through. Ed won the championship and $1 million. And Santi finished second in the championship, 2 points out. A lot of people went boo. How many watched Hinch last night in Dancing with the Stars? Did you vote for him? 10 times each? 13 times. Good grief. Oh, my God. Boy, it's a good thing you don't have to pay a phone bill, isn't it? And if you want to find out what's going on in IndyCar in their last races this coming weekend from Sonoma, by the way, check out tracksideonline.com. You can get everything that goes on in the IndyCar series as well as the Mazda Road to Indy program, and it ain't expensive. Look into it. Now, my first guest is a gentleman. He just got home last night from England, where he was at the Goodwood Festival, and unpacked his clothes, went to the office, and the phone rang, and silly him, he answered it because his secretary was on the other line. He is here tonight. He's been in racing for over 50 years, started in Europe, worked for the team that Jack Brabham had driven for. He retired the year before Derrick went to work for him. He's worked for a lot of the best teams, had some of the best drivers when he owned cars, and was the president of IndyCar operations and competition, and then was president of SCCA Pro. Now he's poor guy's unemployed, going over to England to stand around in the rain. Please welcome Mr. Derrick Walker.
Thank you.
How have you spent, or why? What got you started in racing? Because you've been in it for, 50 years at least? All right, 45.
Well, like all of us, we are interested in cars and racing, and, that's your passion, and that turned out to be a job, which I think I'm been very happy that it worked out that way. I don't know what it'd be like to have an occupation which I didn't like quite as much as I do.
Did you ever drive?
No, I didn't. I always considered the other side of the racing car was more interesting. And apart from that, I probably couldn't drive. That was a minor detail.
Well, yeah, maybe not. As you came up through the ranks, how long did you work in Formula One?
Oh, I was probably in it for about 7, 8 years, something like that.
And then did you leave there and come to America, or did you have another stop along the way?
Well, when I left Brabham's, I went to work for Roger Penske.
Who?
Roger Penske.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy with
And
that trucking outfit, isn't he?
he had American Formula One team.
Yeah.
And when he stopped doing Formula One, he realized he had a manufacturing capability, because we made our own cars in the UK for Formula One. So he, switched us over to start making Indy cars. And so that's how I left Formula One. I started running the shop over there to make the Indy cars, and then eventually came over here and started running his race team, IndyCar team, and never went back.
Was that a better gig, working for Roger as a team manager, or owning your own team and having to fight everything?
Well, I think there's a personal satisfaction of working for yourself. That trumps pretty well everything, I think. I think if you can get an opportunity to be self-employed and have control of your own destiny, I think that's the ultimate. With that comes a lot of responsibility, a lot of risk. So there is some pain with it, but on the other hand, if you succeed, I've been in my own race team for 25 years this year. So lasting 25 years is probably about 24 years more than I thought it would be.
As the owner of a team and you have a crew, you have 10, 15, 20, however many guys you work, their families depend on you. So that puts a lot of extra pressure to make sure you get the sponsorship in line, and so that you can afford to continue on. And of course, to run a team is not cheap. So you got to be able to have the capability to be able to build a car that your drivers can win with.
Yeah, I mean, winning is what it's all about. But finding the money to be able to get the resources that you need to be able to win. Your job is to focus on bringing the business in and doing the maximum you can with whatever you can build or whatever you can find or sell. And if you're good enough, you get good employees who stay with you for years and years, and you pay them well, you take care of them, and they stick around. So I've been very fortunate over the years to have had a lot of good employees who've really been very loyal.
In addition to that, you've had some of the best drivers.
And we've had
IndyCar.
a few drivers.
You've
yeah,
had some pretty good ones.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, they that's a big important part of the whole ingredient. But I think if you have a good team, you'll find drivers that will want to come and drive for you. So they all want to go somewhere where they think they can have a chance to win. And so selling your team is really, your people sell it for you, because those good people attract good drivers.
I know the thing that when I worked for a race team, the thing that the crew always liked is they didn't mind working on the car, but they wanted to have a driver in it that could win, so they bust their hump for nothing.
Yeah.
So the two go together really well.
There's a lot more work in working with a driver who can't drive very well. He'll invariably struggle and will create more work for everybody, and you come away completely worn out and demoralized because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's difficult, but there isn't a lot of drivers out there that are ready to win races. Sometimes you have to be patient and build up the relationships with those drivers and let them gain the experience and build a team around them, and then if they don't run off and drive for Roger Penske, then you get a few good years out of them.
Who are some of the drivers you've had?
Robbie Gordon, Gilles de Farron, Will Power, Simon Pagenaud, I don't know, a few others.
Not a bad gang you had.
Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say Dan Clark.
That's right, Speedy.
Yeah, Speedy would be deeply hurt if I didn't mention him, of course. Yeah, he drove for me for 1 year when we played with Indy Lights for a while.
Something I've said 100,000 times, but you know, if you watch a football game, if a tackle misses a block, you know, the quarterback might get knocked down or something happen. But in a race team, everybody's got to do their job because the guy behind the wheel's life is at stake. And if you drop the ball and don't put the tire on right, or you don't hook the suspension and it breaks, you can see what almost happened to Hinch last year at the Speedway. Bad things can happen. So I think a team, for a team, motorsports is about as tight a team as there is, I think.
Well, it is a group, and there's a lot of different responsibilities in the team, and they all have to do the job as well as each other. Otherwise, you'll find that the weakest link is what's going to be the thing that you don't win by. And also, a driver, you know, driving is a very emotional experience, and to do some of the exceptional things these drivers do, confidence is a big part of it. And if they feel very uneasy about the preparation on the car or the attention to detail that's been given to the car, then that's always going to be, you know, at the back of their mind that they're driving something because they have to, not because they feel that it can, and they will give that extra mile. But you know, the best teams have good people. You can really, it's not that difficult to see the good ones from the not so good ones, let's put it that way.
You still have a sports car team?
No, that finished up. Yeah, well, you know, it's been so long since you invited me.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, if truth be known, I was the only one that he could get on the phone. That's why I'm here tonight. No, my GT program in IMSA finished up last year when Falcon decided that baseball was where they were going to put their money. Instead of racing tires, they were going to race baseball. So they went off to baseball and marketed their money over there, and their program after 5 years came to an end. So currently I don't actually have any racing program. For the first time for a long time, we're sitting here saying, you know, wonder what's next.
What would you like to be next?
Well, I think I'd like to get a job at IndyCar, competitions or operations or something. No. No.
Really?
I don't know. I'm not. No. Yeah, bleep that, will you? No, I enjoy racing, and I enjoy a lot of different parts of racing. So I don't really have anything special. I'd love to have a team program, but that means I got to raise some money pretty in a hurry, and I'm not really in a position to do that as I once was. So I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at a number of things, but I'm not in a hurry. I want to make sure that if I get something next, that it's going to be a good gig.
Would you like to be a team manager for somebody, or?
I don't really care. No, I don't mind. I mean, that sounds odd. I mean, I would have preference to run my own team, but if you can't run your own team, then working with another team and trying to make a difference is, you know, it gets you up in the morning, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
Would you like to see, you know, obviously Dallara builds the cars that IndyCar runs now. Would you like to see it go back, if possible, to where you could build your own or build more of the car yourself? The teams, you know, like the aero package and stuff, build some of your own.
Well, let me say, I'm certainly fall into the category of the non-spec IndyCar. But I would not go back all the way back to the way it was, because I think those days are gone, and we really can't afford to do it that way as we used to. But I think there is a point where opening up the design a little bit, so team participation. I'm not in favor of a spec kit. I think where we had it, and I might have been the only guy in IndyCar that thinks that, but where we had it, where there was two specifications, and it could have opened up to more, and you've got a Honda version or a Chevy version or whatever. I think that was the direction I would have gone. I would have continued down that road and modified that particular package in a way that worked better, because we learned a lot from that. And let's face it, yes, it cost a bit, and there was a lot of issues initially, but the racing that it's generated, I think you'd be hard pressed to say it isn't better with AeroKit. So I wouldn't throw it out the window and go back to a total spec. But like I say, I'm very much in the minority, so I understand that other people would not want to do that.
Now, there's talk about a third engine coming on board, and both Honda and Chevrolet would like that to happen. But at the same time, there's talk that Honda's out chasing a team that has 4 cars. That means 4 engines that they're not supplying now that they would have to. I just kind of wonder, they do want, both of them say they would like to have another engine builder come in, and according to what I've been told, there are several looking at it.
Well, the economics of the engine program are huge. I mean, the cost of those engines is incredibly high. So they have a lot of investment in that engine. So if you're looking at another engine supplier coming in, they've got to have some big kahunas to come in and spend that kind of money to get up to speed with that engine. It's a very exceptional engine, the IndyCar engine, a very good engine as it is now. So if you're a Honda or a Chevrolet, and you could have another manufacturer there, that's less teams that you have to supply to make sure there's a grid. You're not going to spend less. You're going to spend the same amount of money. You're just going to throw some money at Chip or Andretti or whoever you want to get, and get them to run a stronger program or more cars for you. You're not going to spend less. So it's good to have another manufacturer in, because you don't have to spread your engines around for 50% of the field. But on the other hand, you're still going to spend the same kind of money.
It was my understanding that engine manufacturers cannot give teams money. They can't pay them and pay them to get drivers and that kind of thing.
The definition is you can't actually sponsor them with money. You can't give them money and say, well, here's 10, 20 million with sponsor your team. What you can do is say, if you hire this driver, we'll pay his salary. Or you want to go to a wind tunnel, or you want to go and test, we'll pay those expenses for you. So, or we'll buy you a backup car or something like that. I mean, it doesn't stop them from giving you $10 or $20 million in kind. So you can't stop people from giving you money.
And wouldn't want to stop.
I'm waiting for somebody to give me money, but I'm not going to stop them. I'll tell them that.
Now, you left IndyCar as president of competition and became president of SCCA Pro Division. What did that Pro Division, is that not a new series in SCCA?
No.
Okay.
That's what I like
once
about
again, I'm wrong.
This radio station is it's really in touch with what's going on outside. It relies totally on idiots like me coming on this show to educate him as to what's really going on. No, being serious. Now,
I want you to
SCCA has about 60-odd thousand members across the whole of the U.S. who are club members, and they go club racing, they get in, amateur racing, and they do that. And there's a lot of people in that club racing that are very interested in the officiating side, and so they officiate their own club races. And SCCA has a second division, which is called Pro Racing. And Pro Racing is intended to go to like Pirelli World Challenge, Trans Am, Mazda MX-5, and sanction their events. So they take club members and they go and act as officials, flag marshals, race control, all of that. So I went to work for SCCA Pro to run that part of their business, which was basically the same job as I had at IndyCar. Only at IndyCar you have IndyCar and Indy Lights. At SCCA you got MX-5, you got Pirelli World Challenge, And this year we've just released or just started a new series called F4. So it's an FIA formula, single-seater formula, really good package, very cheap. And it's meant as an entry-level formula car for kids that are going out from go-karts into racing, real racing. So it costs about $160 a year to run the races. Cars are 45 grand. And SCCA has the rights to run that series, and they put on the races. So that's just started this year.
And that's a series, of those of you who were here when Scott Goodyear and Jack Miller were here, that's the series that Jack's son, Jack, strangely enough, is in.
Yes, that's right. They have a team, and they're doing very well.
I got to get a hold of Jack, see how his son is. I said, put me on your...
Well, his son is only testing at the moment because he's underage.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
He's like 14-year-old, very short. And when he gets in the car, you wonder, who's in there? Is there a driver there? But he's really good. Jack's working him over. He's going to have him running big time as soon as he can reach the pedals. No, he can reach the pedals, don't worry.
Yeah, but they got to put a sit behind him so he can get up and see over the head of the car.
No, but it's really good that somebody that young and so, he's in the right environment. He's surrounded by a lot of racing, and he'll learn a lot. And he's a quick learner, and I think he's going to be very, very good.
And Jack has got the right people helping him, like Scott is. Scott drove for you.
That's right, Scott Goodyear.
So you taught him well, so now he's passing on your knowledge.
Yeah, I would like to say I taught him everything he knows.
I see.
Yeah,
well,
I hope he's not listening.
Yeah. So, as you said, you're not anxious to make a quick move to anything, but have you got an eye on? Is your eye really you'd like to get back to IndyCar or maybe the Indy Lights or something like that?
Well, if you look at from the team part of what you do next, raising the money is where it's at. If I could raise the money, I'd love to do it. But in reality, time's running out, and I haven't got that in position. So, farming myself out as a contractor of some description is probably what I'll end up doing. But I don't know exactly what.
Have you had any calls?
Yeah, I've had a few. Yeah.
I mean, besides me.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a sponsor calling, and it was just
surprise.
Well, you come on the show. No, I've had a couple of people interested because they've seen what I did with IndyCar and what I did in SCCA, and there's a shortage of people involved on that side of the business, the officiating side. So it may end up somewhere there. I don't know. I
would think somebody like Ed Jones won the championship for the Indy Lights, and he drives for Carlin Racing out of Europe. And they ask him if they're going to get into IndyCar next year, and we may look at, sure, they're going to do it. I don't think there's much question. I would think somebody like that could use somebody like you with all the experience that you've had. They've
got some good people there too.
Oh yeah, no question.
They've got some good people. But when they say, we'd like to do it, I would read that as, we're working on raising the money. Because from where they are to get into IndyCar, it's a big jump financially. So they're probably beating down the bushes, seeing how they can put the money together. But they'll get there in the end. They're going to be a good team. They already are. Yeah. Everything else they've done has been very, very good. So I see no reason why they're not going to do IndyCar.
Were you aware of them in Europe? Because they ran in Europe, so they came here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, ironically, Will Power was driving for Carling.
Oh, really?
When I had this Team Australia program, and I was looking for an Australian driver who could drive, and I come up with this name of Will Power, and I tracked down where he was racing, and found out he was racing for Carling. So I called Carling up and said, I want to talk to your driver and want to hire him. So he was real good about it. It wasn't up to him; it was up to Will ultimately. And we tested Will, and he really wanted to do it, so we put the deal together.
So you're the guy that brought him into this?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
So you'll
Good
be
man.
So you'll be cheering him on Sunday.
Well, don't forget, they've had Pagenaud drive for me as well, so I've divided loyalties. But it'll be, I think, the ball's probably in Simon's court because of the double points. He's already got a bit of a lead in points, and with that double points on that event he'd have to drop out, I think.
I saw today, I forget who sent out what has to happen, how either one can win, all the happenings. But when Simon was looking for a ride, and I used to talk to him quite frequently, and he said, I know I can do this.
Yeah.
He said, I think I know how I can get a ride. I said, how's that? He said, I'm going to change my name. Oh, really? What the hell are you going to change your name to? Simon Indy. Oh, I'll bet that'll be a biggie. Yeah. Well, he got his chances, we all know. And,
no, he can do it all right. Yeah, when he came to the team, because we raced him in Atlantic Series first, and he won the championship, and we got enough money to put together to get him on the Champ Car program. So it was him and Will was the two drivers we had, and Will had a little bit of a head start on experience over Simon. But you could always see Simon, he wouldn't be far behind, and when he got it just right, he was just as quick. So they're very, very, very evenly matched, and they're quite different guys. So they have a different approach to it. But at the end of the day, they're pretty smart, and they have great car control, which is what it's all about.
And here they are. They drove for you and competed. Now they're against each other on the same team again.
Yeah, now they got to drive, and I'm out of work. What the hell does that tell you? I'm on this funky radio station because nobody else is in town.
Now wait a minute. I'm gonna dispute that. I invited him, and he forgot to call me. And guess who I run into in Long Beach? And he goes, "Yes, I forgot to get back to you." No kidding.
At least I was honest.
Yes, you were. He said, I forgot. We'll do it again. So here he is. He made the mistake instead of Kathy answering the phone because she was busy. He
No, I was owe you the call back.
Well, I appreciate you coming here. I'm sure you're probably kind of tired from flying from UK to here last night, and in the office beating the bushes again still. I thank you for coming.
No, thank you. Glad to come and chat.
And we'll look forward to seeing a lineup of some team next year, and the team manager will be Derrick Walker.
Of course, if I don't manage to put a deal together, I'm thinking of going into radio, Seems like you can make a lot of money in that business.
Oh, yeah. You're right. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to do it, I'll sell you this. I thank you for coming. It's always been a pleasure. And this gentleman, no matter where he's been, at whatever level, president or whatever, whenever I've called him, if he's been available, he's been here. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Derrick Walker. Now, my next guest, while he's on his way up here, I got to do a little boning up. He graduated from college, and I can't spell it. So I'm going to tell you that tonight's program is also presented by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You got to come to the country to see why the best prices are, in fact, in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. You'll also see why Sam is always rated at or near the top in customer satisfaction. You just take I-69 north to exit 34, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss them. Sam Pierce Chevrolet. And if Christmas time isn't that far ahead, and if you would like to give one of your fans or friends or family or kid a special present, why not give them a ride in a two-seater? The Indy Racing Experience is the home of the most exciting race car in America. You can get a two-seater ride. They run at the Speedway through October, and they're there most of the time, and of course there are all of the events around wherever IndyCar goes. I recommend you call 317-243-7171. Ask for Shonda at 106. Sign up, get yourself a date that you can go, and mention my name. You get a 20% discount. That's the only time I've ever been worth anything. 20% discount. Can't beat that with a stick. And if it's time for insurance for your car or your home or your business, do what I did. Not my business, but my car and my home. I contacted Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway, and they can help you. They'll give you a better coverage for less money. A lot of people didn't believe me, but they're now members and part of the VP Insurance family. Give Mike Pardee a call. His number is 317-248-0070. Get a quote. He might surprise you. He surprised me. 317-248-0070. And if you are a vintage car buff, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. Go to svra.com. Sign up for it. It is a first-class magazine. Keep you up to date on everything that's going on in the SVRA. You will love the magazine. They are phenomenal. And our next race for the SVRA is the 2016 Coronado Speed Festival with San Diego Fleet Week Foundation. It's September 16th to 18th at the Naval Air Station, North Island, and Coronado, California. If you're anywhere in the area, you're in LA or Manhattan Beach or somewhere, do yourself a favor. Go see it. It is phenomenal. And if you have a kid that's 9 years old and over and would like to get them a two-seater ride, you can do that. They run every day that the track is available. Just go on out to the racetrack. Mention again my name. This time you don't get a 20% discount, but the picture you get of your kid getting out of the car all excited is free. So take advantage of it. And if you're looking to have a Christmas party for family or company, do yourself a favor. Get somebody with 25 years experience, Tony Meyer. She can book everything, hook everything up for you, whatever you want. And she's been doing it for years. So give her a call. Her number is 317-517-7929, or email her at tmeyer, M-E-Y-E-R, tmeyer Indy 63. Now, she's not 63, at AOL.com. My next guest is a gentleman who, as I said, graduated from college in May. He's got a telecommunications degree. Now we're going to find out if he learned anything. We're going to really put him to the test. He has strapped himself into a car for a few years, and now he is the announcer for the United States Auto Club and is also doing some of the Infinity Series events for NASCAR. He is and also was the MC or the host for the Brian Clausen celebration, and he drove his midget for a couple of years, so that had to be a tough one. But we got a budding talent here. I don't know where he gets it from because I just can't imagine. But please welcome Mr. Dillon Welch. Dillon Welch. I'll get it right, believe me. What made you want to get into this line? Get out of the car. Now, what sense is that? I mean, you were a driver. You were doing fairly well. What got you out? Come on.
Well, I got ready to go off to school.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah.
So it kind of got to the point where I wasn't really racing as much as I wanted to anymore, and we were spending a lot of money. My parents were spending a lot of money out of their own pocket. I was getting ready to go to school and asked them to spend more money on me. So I just kind of made a decision that, I was going to try and focus on school for a little while and still try and race when I could, which is what I'm still doing now. So, and, I'm happy. I'm sure I'd like to race more, but I needed to go to school, and I'm glad I did because it's led to a lot of other really great opportunities that I don't think I would have gotten if I hadn't gone to school.
Now, you graduated from Ball State University.
That's correct.
Your father, I don't know if anybody in here has ever heard of his dad or seen him. His name is Vince Welch, and he happens to be here tonight, along with his mother. They're both here. I understand, rumor has it that when you graduated, your GPA was better than your dad's. Is that true?
Well, we were talking, we don't really know. We haven't disclosed, both of us haven't disclosed our GPAs to everybody else at that table, so we don't really know. We don't really know where we stand.
I don't buy that for a minute, but I have a feeling you whipped him. Was the fact that your dad is a nationally known motorsports, did that influence you to go into that line?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a little bit of it. I think I was fortunate to be around it in a different sense than some of my other classmates that I did kind of grow up around it. Certainly wasn't around it a lot, but there were times where when he was at WIBC, I'd go hang out there and just I was always, I was always interested in it, and I thought, well, if I want to, I wanted to stay in racing somehow. I wasn't going to be behind the wheel as much as I wanted to be. So I thought, why not go to school and try and study this and, have a chance to broadcast it. Broadcasting was always kind of something, it's funny, when I was younger, I would play like racing video games, and just with my buddies, like we would announce them. Like didn't really think anything of it, but we just kind of did it just because it was fun. And I always like really, really enjoyed that and felt like I was okay at it. And so then, I wanted to do the USAC announcing, and, it's just kind of snowballed from there. So I think being around it certainly maybe pushed me a little more to have an interest in that. But I think it would have come around regardless.
I got to think your mother's sitting here thinking to herself, race cars are dangerous. The worst might happen when he's broadcasting is he's coming out of the booth, fall down the stairs.
Or get injured on a golf cart or something.
Oh, yeah. Don't want to go there, because for those of you who didn't know, and I'm one of them, his dad hurt himself, or he didn't hurt himself, got himself hurt his ankle. A serious injury. Just now is getting up where he can walk.
Racing or broadcasting is also a lot less expensive than racing is, which was also why she was happy that I don't race very much anymore.
I can imagine, because it was my understanding that if you continued, she was going to have to get 2 jobs.
Yeah, yeah, to say the least.
Was your mother a nervous mother when you were racing?
I don't think. Were you? I don't think so. Yeah, she never really. Like when we ran quarter midgets and stuff, I think there were some other parents that would get nervous, but I don't think she ever was. I never really was in a situation where I don't feel like I crashed a lot, especially when I was first starting. So I don't know if I ever gave her a reason to be nervous about that, but thankfully she wasn't. Thankfully she was always supportive and has always been, no matter what it's been, whatever I've raced, she's always been supportive.
I had Tice Carlson's dad here one night, and I had to have him because I followed him one race weekend. And if he didn't go through 2 pair of shoes, he didn't go through any. He paced and walked, and oh my God. And I followed him around, then I had him on here, and we discussed how many miles he walks when his son is in an IndyCar. In the broadcasting world, I read a piece that your dad, somebody had done an interview, and he said he was up in a booth, and I don't know if it was a rain delay or red flag or something. He started listening, and he heard you broadcasting a race. He said he couldn't believe it, that this is my son. And it was, I think, an Infinity race, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was at the test, my MRN test. Yeah. So, yeah, I was my audition for MRN was at Michigan last summer, 2015, and it was kind of raining off and on at the track, so we needed to get this audition done. So we just went up and simulated a broadcast. Basically, the cars were practicing, and everybody was all spread out just because it was practice. And but we needed to do this audition, so they just said, they came over our headsets and said, we're just gonna make this up. We're just gonna make a race up. And so that's what we did. So they picked out like 2 cars that were out there, and we just made up a race. And I seriously think that my days of announcing the video games paid off right there, because I had to make up names all the time when I was doing that and fabricate stuff like that. And that's kind of what we did there, and it got me this job.
And I read where I guess the president of MRN said, I listened to him, and that was a no-brainer. He was hired.
Good.
Period.
Good.
That's what Mom and Dad said too. Good. It's better than racing.
Yep.
How often do you get to race? I mean, since you're broadcasting or announcing USAC, that keeps you pretty busy.
Yeah, it does. It's not as much as I'd like to, but usually 2 or 3 times a year. In fact, I'm getting ready to run the Jason Leffler Memorial here next month over in Southern Illinois. So I always look forward to that. Jason, of course, was a great friend to a lot of us, and it's a really fun race and a great way to honor him. So run that one, and then there's an indoor race in DuQuoin, Illinois in December that we'll run, and then we'll go run the Chili Bowl again too. So Those are kind of my three that I use. I use the first two kind of to knock the rust off for the Chili Bowl, and then so by the time we get to Tulsa, we're ready to go.
Who are you driving for?
I'm driving for a gentleman named Scott Ronk, who's from Kokomo, and I've run for him the last 2 years. So excited to get back in the car, and it's usually about this time of year where I kind of start to get the itch, and I'm ready to get back in it, and so looking forward to next month, and excited to get back to the Chili Bowl as well.
Do you think, as a broadcaster now, because that's primarily what you do, do you think that the fact that you've driven cars from an early age and are now able, now you may be broadcasting, Infinity cars, I don't know if you've ever driven one, but you get an idea, you can see things that are coming, and after a few laps you realize who you got to watch for. You should spot that rather quick. Has that helped you a lot?
Yeah, it definitely has. It's a lot of the kind of the instinctual things like you touched on, and even in the NASCAR side, just kind of seeing guys work and the way they're driving. While I haven't driven a NASCAR, I certainly understand the mindset of why they do certain things. And then on the dirt side of things, on the USAC stuff, especially in the midgets, because that's what I've driven. I haven't driven a sprint car or a Silver Crown car, but especially in the midgets, just knowing kind of how those cars drive and how you have to drive them to get them to do certain things, it definitely helps. And I can see guys do something in the car, and I think whether it's something that I've done or I've just seen somebody else do behind the wheel, that I can relay that over the air. So it definitely has helped for sure.
I like listening to Bobby and Sam Posey back. That was before you were born, of course. You've probably heard about them.
I have.
And they're both still alive.
One of the great things about working at USAC is the video archives. So we get to see a lot of old stuff, including those two.
And now Paul Tracy with the IndyCars, he'll see something and they'll say, "Oh, they're going to have to do." He said, "That's racing, but I've done that. That's no big deal." I think it's interesting for guys that have done it, been there, done it, survived it, fortunately, and know what's going on and what's happening. Did you happen to watch? I probably shouldn't bring this up. Did you happen to watch the was it Watkins Glen race?
The IndyCar race?
Yeah.
I missed it. No, I was actually I was in Canada, so I missed that.
Oh, excuse me, Canada. They were talking. Was it? Well, it must have been Watkins Glen. They were talking about driver changes and moving, and somebody came up. I won't mention the name, but if you watch, you know what I'm talking about. Said he shouldn't drive for his father anymore. He should go drive for another team. And Paul said
that kind of narrows it down a little bit.
Yeah, somewhat. To at least a couple anyway. Yeah. And Paul made the comment the best place for him is driving for Uber.
That's harsh.
And then a lap or two later, this guy pulls in the pit, and Paul says, "What in the world is he stopping for?" And Townsend said, "I think he's coming up to have a word with you." That was funny. If you haven't seen it, you got a taping or watch it. It's funny, I think, anyway. I mean, I got a kick out of it. I don't think he will, but anyway, as your career is evolving and you're moving up, does the guy sitting at the end of the table, does he help you, give you any pointers, or things to look for or look out for or so forth? Yeah,
he does. I mean, it's having him in my corner has certainly been beneficial, and not so much from the craft standpoint, the actual announcing. He certainly gives tips and and corrections when he sees them and when they need to be given, but it's the other stuff. It's the networking. He always says you never know who's watching. It's always about being a professional, whether it's on social media or whatever. It's the thing that he's helped me with the most is all of the stuff apart from the actual announcing, I feel like, and that's something that a lot of people, a lot of kids my age don't really think about. You may hear it, you hear you have to be a professional, but you don't really understand it, I don't think, until you're actually out in it. And that's something that he's tried to teach me from a young age. Even when I was little and I do interviews and stuff, it was always we'd take car rides and we'd rehearse these interviews. Just he'd pull questions out of the hat basically and just say, what are you going to say when they ask this, and yada yada yada. And so it's all that stuff that I think now, and certainly I'm 22 years old, so I still have a lot of room to grow as a person and as a broadcaster. But I feel like I have a little bit of an advantage in that sense, just because he's been harping on it for years and years and years.
Well, I would think, to help you with those kinds of things. But what would be interesting, and I think he's mentioned it in this interview that I read, that you have your own style. You're not Vince Welch Jr. You're Dillon Welch, and you have your style. And I think that's what's important. The other thing, and if you haven't found it yet, you will, and your dad can confirm this one. If you make up something when you're broadcasting a race, I don't care if there's 200 people watching, 180 of them will know you're wrong, that you're full of hooey. So you really got to be careful, because they catch you. Even on social media, I've misspelled things and I get, geez, I'm sorry, I don't have spell correct. They get all over you like a cheap suit.
Yeah, they don't forgive easily. That's for
No.
sure. They're on top of it. They catch a mistake, they'll call you for it.
Yeah, well, that's all part of the fun. I know your dad's never had anybody do that to him, I'm sure. But have you, Vince? Has anybody ever said, uh-oh, that's what I thought? Okay, well, that's good. Okay. Does your dad know you can go to hell for lying the same as stealing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What kind? When you take telecommunications, what kind of classes do you take for that? What do you do?
Honestly, I think the classes were necessary, I think, is kind of what the word is. But I don't think I learned as much in the actual classes as I learned. There's a program we have at Ball State called SportsLink, which is a entirely student-run production company, basically. Does feature stories on Ball State athletes, produces live Ball State sporting events on ESPN3. It is a full-fledged production company, but it's run entirely by students. And I was a part of that program and got to do a lot of things that when you graduate that you have to do, just for jobs, whether it's working in the production truck or editing or, running a camera or, whatever it is. I got to do it all in this SportsLink program, and that's where I learned the most, because that's, you learn how to interact with athletes, you learn how to interact with people in the athletics office, the people, the important people. All of that, I think, was so much more beneficial than sitting in a lecture hall. It certainly has its advantages, and it's a necessary part of school. But being in it while still in school was a game changer.
I understand a lot of the programs, and a lot of them you were associated with, won awards.
Yeah,
Did very well.
Yeah. This SportsLink program, they win Emmys. It's just about every award you can think of. They've got it in the trophy case, and that's not really why they do it, but it certainly is nice to be recognized for the kind of work that they pump out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that you've worked hard and you guys have coordinated and put stuff together, and somebody recognized. That's good. Yep. Does all of this kind of thing happen in the David Letterman building?
It does. Yep, that's where it is.
Has Mr. Letterman popped in and sat in and listened? And
not
said,
not into our building, but he's been back on. He was on campus last year, and then my freshman year, so that'd have been 2012. He came back with Oprah. So
who?
Oprah.
Ooh.
So. He comes back. That building, he's put a lot of money into that building. It's a beautiful building, and was really fortunate to be able to go through it and learn in there.
Have you met him?
I have not.
You got to go to an IndyCar race and hang around Ray Hall Letterman.
I know. I need to. I'd like to meet him.
Well, the trouble is you don't recognize. We got this thing, Santa Claus.
He looks like Santa Claus.
Yeah, he's working on Santa Claus. He's a little early, but he's working on it. Is there anything that? Let me go back a second. There's two broadcasters that did IndyCar, and when one of them, and I can't remember which one it was, came in, he wasn't familiar with IndyCar and exactly what to do. So what they did when they drove back and forth from the hotel to the track is, and I think it was Scott Goodyear, would start calling a race. I mean, they were driving, and he'd start calling. And he'd make the pause and let his companion pick it up from there, and that's how they learn how to coordinate and, how to work together. Of course, the other thing that's got to be interesting is when you're doing this, you got a headset on, and there's some nitwit in there says, go to the blue car, see what he's doing. You got, oh, geez, now you got to talk and listen to that. Did that help you in school? I'm sure you did that there a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on air as much in school as maybe I am now, but that's another thing that that hanging with Dad just kind of familiarized me with. I'd go when he would do Ball State basketball games, we'd go sit on the sidelines and put a headset on and just listen. So just kind of having an understanding of how all of that works before you actually go and do it is such a big help for sure.
Is there something down the road that you have your eye on you'd like to do? I mean, I'd
like to call the Indianapolis 500 at some point.
Well, I mean, Mr. James won't live forever. And they do, although they got a pretty good broadcast team now, I think, but I'm sure that's something that you will look at and work toward.
Yeah, I mean, it's, certainly feel fortunate to have the opportunities that I do on the NASCAR side, but I've always been an IndyCar fan, and the Indianapolis 500 has always been the race that when I was racing that I wanted to race in, and now as a broadcaster, the one that, if you broadcast the Indianapolis 500, I mean, you've made it. So that's the ultimate goal for me, is to do Indy for sure.
Wouldn't it be neat to be in turn 3 or in turn 2, and you say they're coming around turn 2 and blah, blah, blah. Now down to turn 3 and Vince Welch.
See, when I was racing, I always wanted to win and then him interview me in victory lane. But we've been fortunate to do some NASCAR truck races, not for the same network because he's been on TV and I've been on radio, but it's been cool to be there and to be doing the same race. So it would be an honor for sure to be able to do that.
You're up in the booth and say, who we got in turn 3? Oh, yeah, Vince Welch. Take it, Vince. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry? I know, but he's throwing it to his dad.
Shh.
Wow. Jeez.
About hecklers out there.
I know. They
front row.
They won't let you alone. It's something about it. I don't know what it is.
Tough gig for you, Don.
Yeah, I know. Well, they don't like, people don't come to see me. They come to see you. I think that broadcasting, I know I don't consider what I do broadcasting by any stretch. I love to talk to somebody like you or the drivers or something and find out what they're about, what makes them tick. And I've been fortunate that with very few exceptions, if I've invited somebody, they said I wouldn't do that for all the tea in China. It hasn't happened. But, I enjoy interviewing, and I've heard a couple of yours, and you do a nice job with that.
Well, thank you. It's something that I'm constantly working on and trying to get better at. But that's one of the great things about doing the USAC thing is that not only do I get to do play-by-play announcing, but I get to interview and get to talk to the drivers after every race, whether it's on the PA or in front of the camera. So it's something that I'm always working on trying to get better at for sure.
Something that irritates me, it's not you yet, but some of these reporters in Victory Lane ask the same question. What was it like out there? Oh, it was a Sunday drive. What do you mean what was it like out? Good grief. They ask some of the most mundane questions, I think. And there's so many things that, as a broadcaster, you see, or the former racer, you see that you can ask them about. I like that when they say, "You remember when you were coming up behind, Louis Schwartz, and he did what was going through your mind when you saw that?" Rather than just the regular questions. And I'm sure, coming from the Letterman building at Ball State University, you've worked on that, so that every interview in Victory Circle isn't the same questions.
Well, and it's hard for me sometimes too because the sprint car races are so action-packed and there's stuff going on everywhere. And there may be a guy that finishes third, and I haven't watched him all race, just because he all of a sudden found something late in the race and drove past a bunch of guys. But so it's harder in that sense. But at the same time, I think that's also where having a background as a driver helps a little bit too, because I can ask him a little bit more technical question then, maybe about about how they drove, how they got to third so late, what they did to drive their car differently, that sort of thing. So that's another way that it kind of circles back to being a help, to have driven before.
Now, one of the things I did for a number of years, I teamed with Mark Janes. You've heard of him?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And he would be calling the race, and I'd be up with him watching behind. He's watching the lead. I'm watching in the back, so what's going on and who's doing what. And I would let him know if some car is moving up and moved up 10 spots, so he could spot that and talk about it. Does anybody tell you keep an eye on car 14? He's on the move.
Yeah, and usually when we're at these sprint car races, the towers are not Indianapolis Motor Speedway press boxes.
Oh, really?
It's shipping containers, and you're tight, you're compact. So and we have, like, our race director is up there, and there's other people in the tower that are watching the race, and so they'll call stuff out just kind of more as just like a fan would call it out, and so then me and our race director have a good relationship, so he'll point stuff out, just say it, and I'll turn my attention and watch it, so that helps for sure. But even still, in the course of a 25 or 30 lap race, you just miss things sometimes.
Oh, of course. And those cars move so quick, and they make quick moves, and all of a sudden the guys move past 5 people and didn't realize it. Well, I'll tell you what, it's interesting. I listen to you every chance I get, and I've heard you on the MRN a couple times. I used to know the guys that started it even before your dad was in broadcasting. He was probably trying to figure out how to get milk in a bottle so he could drink it. And it's a very interesting group that they had, and what they've done over the years. But I wish you well. I think you're on the right track in the broadcasting. You're doing well. I think you've got a nice presentation from what I listen to. You do a nice job, and you have your own style, which I think is good, because people will be able to pick up, oh, that's Dillon. I recognize how you're broadcasting. I think that's good, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's fun to have you. And you brought your mom, your dad.
Brought the entourage here in the
you brought Grandpa
table
and Grandma,
one. Yeah.
And Dad saying, your dad said, geez, I didn't realize here I got to buy dinner for all of them. Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
Yep.
But I won't send him my bill. I'll keep it myself. But thank you for being here. Congratulations on graduating from Ball State with a degree, and look forward to seeing you in bigger and better things. And I'm going to point out to Mr. Janes that his replacement may be in the wings.
Please do.
Ready to go.
Please.
And who knows? You may get on the broadcast team here in a year or two. You never know.
Yeah. It's right now I'm just kind of at the point where I'm just trying to do anything and everything I can. I want to call as many races as I can, whether it's NASCAR, USAC, or IndyCar. I just want to kind of get my name out there and do as much as I can, and hope that everything falls into place.
Well, I'm sure it will. You're doing a great job. Continued success. Good luck. And we'll be seeing you or hearing you on the air.
Thank you.
Dillon Welch. Keep an eye and an ear out for him, because he's a comer. And be sure and check the results from the what's the bowl down in I just forgot the name of the bowl in Chili Bowl. Yeah, keep an eye on Chili Bowl. I forgot about it. I had chili this afternoon. You'd think I'd remember that one. Next week, we are looking at bringing maybe a former driver from years gone back. He said he would be in town. He told me that last week, and when I talked to him the other day, he was in Washington State. I said, what the hell are you doing up there? You were in California. Well, I went up there. My sister's kids live there, and I'm freeloading. Oh, okay. But he should be here next week. Again, my website, which I'm working on a new one. The old one still works, autosportradio.com. Click on the current show, and when I have the guests, they'll be up there. And hopefully we'll see you next week. And I've got a couple of people working and a couple more upcoming that'll be kind of interesting. So hope you'll be with us. For tonight, this is Don Case. I want to thank Derrick Walker for being here and Dillon Welch for being here. Keep an eye on Dillon. He's going to be a broadcaster. He's going to be a good one. Until next week, Don Case saying thanks for watching. Good night.